Welcome to 10 Minutes, I'm Scott Pelley. This is the current state of the western basin of Lake Erie, experiencing what's called the algae bloom effect. These are the results of phosphorus runoff from animal waste and fertilizer. And while this bird's eye view may seem picturesque, the results are not so pretty. Take a look. We sat down with an expert from the field from Michigan State University, Bill McKibben. So where exactly is the phosphorus coming from?
The phosphorus is coming from mainly farming in farmers and farming practices. The fertilizer used in farming practices are very effective. Way back in the day, we very perfected the technology of fertilizer. It came a long way. And sadly, phosphorus is in it. What phosphorus does is the farmers lay it down and it gets trapped in the mud, trapped in the soil. And when it rains, the phosphorus will run off because all the phosphorus is used. Farmers are using way too much phosphorus in their fertilizer with their crops. And the phosphorus, although it's essential for growth, it's speeds up the process. It is a catalyst. And when it rains, the runoff will carry, like the runoff of the rain will carry the phosphorus into the rivers. The rivers will then carry it to the Great Lakes. And in the Great Lakes, when the phosphorus does get there and creates a delta, this delta is this huge buildup of soil with phosphorus in it. And let's say we have a hot summer. Sun coming down on it, solar photons going into it, and this spontaneously makes the phosphorus react and create an algae bloom. And that is very deadly to the area. Algae blooms are just, think about this 4 feet just thick layer of muck. It smells bad, looks bad. It lowers the dissolved oxygen in water, so the fish can't survive. So it kills fish, kills marine life. It gets washed up on the beaches. People don't want to go to the beach if there's a bunch of phosphorus and algae bloom, just muck on the beach. I mean, it's not very, exciting to look at. And it smells. It kills, like I said, it kills all marine life, and really, it's just all around a bad practice, and we should really focus on either lowering the levels of phosphorus in fertilizer or coming up with a new practice, period.
Beyond the wildlife, this is affecting fishing businesses from around the area. We sat down with local fisherman Willie O'Neill to get his take on things. In your area, is this affecting any other businesses other than fishing?
Well, I can definitely tell you with 100% sure that all of businesses dealing with fishing or anything to do with the lake, yes, it's extremely affecting it, because the way the algae looks, the way the water looks, you can't fish. The fish are dying. Like the wildlife in the lake is just not what it used to be 10, 15 years ago. I can't speak personally, but I know some business owners that deal with like restaurants and tourists, businesses around the lake, and I know that they're taking a hit because people don't want to go to the lake in the situation it's in right now. It just doesn't have the visual appeal as it did, like I said before.
Willie, how is this going to affect your business?
Well, listen, Scott, all right. I run a charter business, so I take people out fishing. With the lake in the current status it is right now, with this phosphorus runoff, I guess you guys are calling it, my business can't run, right? So when I go out, no one wants to fish on the lake in the way that it is now. So if you're asking me how my business is affected, I think that it's definitely going to put my business out of business in the way it's going right now.
The root cause of algae bloom effect has been the fertilizer from farmers. We sat down with farmer Rick Meyer to get his side of the story. Do you really need to use the fertilizer?
I absolutely need to use fertilizer, particularly with phosphorus in it, because phosphorus is one of the three basic elements or chemical elements rather, for plant life. It includes potassium, phosphorus, and nitrogen. So without the phosphorus, I wouldn't have crops to grow, and you wouldn't have food to eat.
How often do you fertilize?
Typically, there's about 3 to 4 applications throughout the year. Normally, I'll lay down an application before, like late fall, let it settle over the winter, and then as the crop is coming up, I will fertilize another 1 or 2 times. Normally, I use about 75 to 100 pounds of fertilizer per acre to make sure that everything's covered. I use a precision tractor to help lay it down.
Have you considered using organic farming?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, not just myself, but I think a lot of my other, neighbors and farmers have looked at it. It's just not a viable option. If you look at organic farming as a whole, it's mainly smaller operations. And I mean, back when we didn't really use as much fertilizer, the typical farmer only fed about 5 people. Today, the typical farmer feeds about 200 people. And so organic farming just isn't sustainable for a large commercial operation today. And so, I mean, if something else comes down the pipeline that's more viable, absolutely I'll look at it. But just right now, it's not there yet.
How do you see this affecting the world down the road?
Affecting the world down the road. Well, here at Michigan State, my research team put together many case studies and figured out that in 15 years, all this phosphorus will be built up in the Great Lakes. And right now it's just in Lake Erie, and the algae blooms are just affecting Lake Erie. But our prediction is all the Great Lakes Basin, all the Great Lakes will be a huge algae bloom. And in 15 years, our studies show that with the sun warming up the algae mats, they'll create this uneven pressure in the lakes. And about 12 feet throughout the whole lake is just pure algae. And at this point, evolution will take its role, and the algae will be evolving into this being that we don't really know what's going to happen. It really scares us because in our case studies, we sped up the process with catalysts, with hydrochloric acid and stuff like that actually speeds it up. And we saw that the algae took a form that could take over the world, could take over the world, could take over the world, take over the world.
We sat down with John Thompson of SFP to discuss alternative fertilizing opportunities.
Yeah, we actually have a really cool thing coming on here. From what I understand, you're doing a piece on how the fertilizer is hurting the environment, how phosphorus and all that. What we're doing is we're creating a fertilizer that uses currently unused phosphorus in the ground. Therefore, in the long run, you're reducing the amount of phosphorus runoff and chemicals in the environment. We have a video that will actually explain it pretty well if you want to take a look.
Calcium, iron, magnesium, and aluminum are positively charged ions in the soil that chemically bond with conventional phosphorus fertilizer. A veil acts as a negatively charged shield that protects your phosphorus by attracting the positively charged ions. As a result, that phosphorus is now unlocked and stays available to your crop.
Phosphorus runoff is a problem that won't go away quickly, but with SFP on the new frontier of fertilizing, we should see a solution to the problem within the next 5 years. We'll see you next week. I'm Scott Pelley.